Hey everybody, this is Peter with Tabletop Gaming Guild, and we're back again with another Free League Publishing Forbidden Lands book, and today we're taking a look at Raven's Purge. This is a campaign book for Forbidden Lands, and again, Forbidden Lands is Free League Publishing's look at the OSR, the old school Renaissance, where this is a game that's looking back to the style of play that happened in the 70s. There's a big map with a hex grid on it, and your players are going to be journeying across this map and visiting adventure sites, delving into dungeons, ruined castles, villages full of people, and they're going to be going after treasure. They're trying to make a name for themselves. This is not a game of heroes, even though there might be some heroics, but you are playing adventurers who are traveling a land that is not well known, and you're trying to figure out the history of what is going on here in this world. Now, Raven's Purge is a huge addition to the Forbidden Lands game. It is 225 pages, and it is a campaign where Forbidden Lands, you know, you're going to have these adventure sites, and you can create them yourself, or you can find some of the books that Free League Publishing has put out that has some of these adventure sites in them to fill your campaign world. But as your players go from hex to hex, they're going to be going up against either random encounters that you have put together or adventure sites. What this is as a campaign book is an overarching story that you can utilize to fill in your map, to fill in your hex grids. And so we're going to go ahead and take a look at it, find out a little bit more about what the story is focusing on. We're not going to get into too much detail here, just because we don't want to be giving away any of the major plots of the story. But I just want to highlight that Free League is doing such a great job of continuing to support the Forbidden Lands game, and they're doing so in some small ways and some big ways. Previous videos here we talked about their two books that have just adventure sites in them, but then this book here, being a bigger campaign, is just a great example of how Free League continues to support such a wonderful game that they're putting out there for their players. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit more into Raven's Purge. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump forward to our table of contents, where we see something called Mercy in Vond, which is actually going to be a little bit of fiction for you to read as the games master, get you in the mood for this story. Then there's an introduction, and then you have a chapter called Stanningist, which is all about some artifacts that are going to be a pivotal point of this campaign. You have a chapter on key players that the NPCs that your players are probably going to be allying with or making enemies of. And then we have 12 adventure sites, again from the three different flavors. We've got castles, dungeons, and villages for your players to visit, full of monsters and NPCs and events for them to go into. And these are going to be the places where some of these are going to be the places probably where they're going to find those 4 major artifacts throughout the game as well. And then there is a very small section at the very end about the aftermath once the campaign has wrapped up. So here is Mercy in Vond. It is a few pages long worth of fiction to, again, get you into the mindset for this story that you're going to be telling with your players. And then we have our introduction. Our introduction is going to be probably where we spend a little bit of time right now, because we want to go over what is this campaign. Why is it that you might find it interesting to run it for your players? So let's go a little bit over the introduction. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and read this introduction page to you so you get an idea of what this campaign is about. Hopefully it will ignite your imagination, it will excite you, and maybe you will want to go ahead and pick up a copy of this book for your Forbidden Lands game. Welcome to the Raven's Purge campaign for Forbidden Lands. The Raven has every reason to purge the Forbidden Lands, the land that the Raven God allowed men to share with dwarves, elves, and otherkin for hundreds of years in ancient times has been ravaged by war and also invaded by otherworldly demons. Most of the inhabitants of the Forbidden Lands believe the humans and their sorcerous offspring with elves to be the cause of their current misery, a belief that has sown distrust and hatred among the kin. Now, when the blood mist has lifted, the time has come to purge the land, or to decisively claim it for their own. The legend tells of how 6 elves in ancient times oversaw and protected life on the stone orb that the dwarves had built for their god Huge. Even before the humans came to Ravenland, the elves deemed that the creation was complete and withdrew so as not to disturb it. They shed their flesh and had their 6 rubies set into the crown Staningist, which is said to have been worn by the first kings of the land. During the wars, several elf stones were stolen from the crown, however, and later it disappeared completely. Now that the Forbidden Lands are accessible once again, the legend of Staningist has begun to stir. The power, knowledge, and value of the Elven Crown is the key to the Forbidden Lands, be it to save the land or to assume control over it. So as the book says, this is not supposed to be an adventure that's specifically linear in plot, but there's a ton of information here, all revolving around this crown of Staningist. And so you got a little bit of the lore there from that opening bit, and there's so much more lore throughout this entire book about the crown, the other artifacts, and those are the things, again, that your players are going to be adventuring after. So the idea here is that this book gives you the artifacts, it gives you the non-player characters who know the information about, or at least some of the information about these artifacts and where to find them, or they have their own desires of why they want these artifacts and what they want to do here in the Forbidden Lands. And so your job here is to utilize these 12 adventure sites, and it even tells us here that 2 of the adventure sites in the Games Master's Guide also can tie into the Raven's Purge. And so you have up to 14 adventure sites already pre-written for you in your game that you can use to create this overarching campaign. And again, Forbidden Lands is meant to be more of a sandbox game, but it's so cool that there's now a bigger story that is already written for you that you can bring your players along in creating and telling together. So I know myself, I'm somebody who I like pre-written adventures, and so I've played those in other games. And Forbidden Lands, as much as I love the idea of the hex crawl, the thing that's going to tie it together to really make it feel like a campaign, for me, might be a little bit more difficult, because it's going to rely a lot on me utilizing information from the players and then creating stuff as well on my own to tie in the game for them. And so now I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to have the anxiety of that with something like this, with a huge 225-page book of pre-written adventure sites and lore and NPCs that I can now pour over and utilize as the game progresses. And I don't have to utilize every single adventure site throughout the game, and I could even add in other ones later as I continue to become more and more comfortable with the game and creating things. And so with that said, I think it's incredibly exciting to see Free League Publishing continue to support this game by creating something like this for games masters like myself, who need a little bit more help probably pulling together a big campaign, a big idea that can tie this open world together. And so I'm really excited by it. I think they've created a great book here, a really fun idea for a campaign. I love that it's, again, revolving around specific artifacts. So again, this isn't a game about heroics. It's about going out and finding treasure and loot and creating a stronghold and learning about the lore of the land. And I love that. So even though it is a campaign, it's a bigger book here, it still fits very much into the idea that your players are treasure hunters. They're not heroes, even though some heroics may happen, but they are treasure hunters at heart. And I just really love that they continue to stick with that, even though they are creating a bigger campaign for the players to play through. So that's most of what I really wanted to get into for this video. I don't want to get too much into the history of the artifacts or the adventure sites themselves because I don't want to be giving away anything for it. Really what I wanted to do was let you know about the book itself to encourage you, if you're a games master like myself, who Forbidden Lands looks like a game that you might want to run, but there's just so much of the idea that it's open world that you're just like, it's just too much for you to handle, you know? And you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to create all these adventure sites, and I'm gonna have to. They have done it for you. They've created this book, The Raven's Purge, and now you can just take from this book and utilize it, put it into your game, and you'll have a cool campaign, a cool story for your players to discover. So that's everything I wanted to show you. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Raven's Purge for Forbidden Lands by Free League Publishing. I hope that it has excited you the way that it has excited me. And before we go, I love this art. I absolutely love this art. I really enjoy the line art throughout all of the Forbidden Lands books, but I do love that they take the time to give us these really cool, evocative color paintings here on the front of each of the books, and this one I think is just really fantastic. I love the feathers and the way that they tie in to the hair of, I'm assuming, what is an elf, it looks like. So that is my review on Raven's Purge. Again, just wanted to give you a little information about it, encourage you game masters out there who want to try Forbidden Lands, but at the same time you're a little daunted by the idea of an open world sandboxy game. Here is a campaign book that's going to really get you kick-started and give you a story that I think sounds like it's going to be a blast for you and for your players. So if it sounds interesting to you, head on over to freeleaguepublishing.com, check out all of their materials for Forbidden Lands, as well as the other awesome games that they are producing over there. Head on over to tabletopgamingguild.com, learn a little bit more about us and what we're up to. If you like the video, give it a like, maybe subscribe, and until we talk again, everybody, keep on playing games.